Part two of the Emecole wall foundation crack repair. First part we were doing the two-part epoxy, applying that to the wall, and second part will be taking the Emecole 102 and doing the injection part. So let me show you what the wall looks like after we've got the two-part epoxy applied and the ports applied. Alright, here we are. So once we get the two-part epoxy mixed, you'll apply it to the crack. You don't push it into the crack, you just apply it over the top of the crack, just skim coating over the crack, and then put the ports on there with a little bit around the edge, making sure not to plug the hole. You make sure the hole's not plugged in there, and then applying sufficient amount around the outside of it, around here, so it holds on there and stays. So about an 1/8 inch thick or so, apply it pretty thick on there. So we've got all the ports all the way down on this side, on this wall, and then over in the crack on the corner. You can see the corner is a little bit tricky to get in there, so you're gonna have to work with that. I highly recommend mixing small portions of the epoxy so it doesn't dry up on you, and working a little bit at a time. That might be worth having two people. Very difficult to film this and do it at the same time, so that's what that looks like on there. And same thing, try not to plug the port so you can make sure you get that in there. So let's go back to the injection part now. Alright, so the injection part of it, there's two separate tubes. This one and this one have it set up so I can show you what that looks like. They're the exact same thing, and just two separate tubes give you plenty for a 10-foot crack in this particular kit. So first step is remove the blue cap. Then there's a plug in there, so you'll want to remove that. Once you get that removed, inside the bag with these two are these little reducers, I guess. Those just slide right back over the top of this to make sure that the two, I don't know if you can see that, but there's actually two different chemicals in there that mix together for the polyurethane. So put the reducer in there, and then you get in there, it looks like that. Then you'll take the tube, which is right here, and just screw that in there. When you put this tube together, you want to make sure you have it together nice and tight. You can see it has the zigzags back and forth to mix all the chemical and the polyurethane. Make sure this is a nice tight connection. It'll snap when you put it in there, and then make sure this tube is in here real nice and snug as well. Get that all put together inside your caulk gun, and then you can go over and start your injections in those ports. So to start these injections in the ports, first thing you want to do is get your squirt bottle full of water, and you're going to put water in here and flush that crack. This is to flush any remaining dust out of there, and it'll start dripping from the hole below it. It also is going to act as a reacting agent for the epoxy, or the polyurethane, when you put it in there. So you'll flush that, make sure it's dripping from all done. Once it starts dripping from this one, start squirting it in here, drips down, so on and so forth, all the way down. You might have to refill this little bottle a couple of times. Alright, I didn't say this, but you have to make sure once you apply this two-part epoxy on here, let it set for between 2 and 4 hours. They recommend not overnight, but a couple of hours, so it hardens before you do that flush. But once you get that done, you've got your 2-hour wait, you flushed it, you're going to start at the bottom. So take your hose from your caulk gun around and connect it to the bottom port. You're going to slowly, very slowly start injecting it in there. You don't want to apply too much pressure and do it too quickly because it won't set up properly. So very small amount going in there. It may take 2 to 4 minutes per port. So I'll apply this very slowly till I start seeing it come out, this next one. Once I see it coming out here, take this, clamp off the hose, remove it, take one of your plugs, and plug the hole. Take your hose, move up to the next one, start injecting there. Again, very, very slowly, 2 to 4 minutes, until it starts coming out here, and just repeat the process all the way up until you're done. They're all mixed. At this point, you're going to wait a few more hours. I usually wait overnight. The next morning I'll come down, and then these just knock right off with a hammer. You can just knock them off pretty easily, or hit them with your hand. Sometimes they come off that way too, so they just come right off. After you knock them off, this is what it's going to look like. So you can see the epoxy is firm, and you can see the polyurethane injection right in here. So it swells up, they say, I think it's 20 times or 200 times, I don't know, a lot. It expands in that crack, and that's what seals that up. It expands, but it's also flexible. So if the foundation shifts a little bit, or the swelling and reducing with the temperatures and the water and everything else. So that's what it ends up looking like. When you're done, you can buff that out with a grinder and smooth it over if you want to paint this wall and leave it without a wall on top of that. But I'm going to finish it with sheetrock, so I'm just leaving that. I'm not going to grind it down. Sheetrock over the top of it, and we'll be good to go. I hope this helped you out. It was informative. Sorry about a couple of the glitches with my phone dying in the middle of them doing two-part, but let me know what you think. If you have any questions, write them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. Appreciate it.